What is up, my friends and fellow busy bees? Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, I'm going to assume you know a little something about me. Number one, I'm a lifelong learner. Number two, I spend most days filling my day with learning through audiobooks, through podcasts, through reading, and listening to other talks and that kind of thing. A lot of the time from people in the business world. I'm definitely leaning into more of the health spaces now just to learn things about like anatomy and health systems and my body and how it interacts. And I listen to a lot of motivational and self-help kind of stuff as well. And I have done this for the last 3 years, I would say. Actually, almost 4, because I really picked this up during the pandemic, which was also simultaneously when I started working from home. And I am a busy bee, as you may have guessed, based on the title of this podcast. And as such, I don't spend a lot of time just like sitting down doing nothing. I don't really watch TV or movies for my own enjoyment. I definitely do it with my husband because he enjoys doing that, and that's something that we'll do together in the evenings. But if I'm just by myself or going through the day on my own time, that's not something I really choose to do. If I'm going to do anything like that, it will be scrolling on TikTok. But again, I've curated an algorithm where, for the most part, I'm learning when I'm on there. I'm getting a lot of life hacks and business advice and motivational stuff. So it's all kind of one and the same. So if I'm on TikTok, that's what's happening. And if I am doing anything else in my day, I'm cleaning the house, I'm walking the dog, I'm in the workshop, I have my AirPods on and I am listening to one of those things, an audiobook, a podcast, whatever. So I have a lot of hours in my day that I am consuming that kind of stuff. And I've started to notice a lot of similarities or common threads and common themes from the people that I listen to who are, for the large part, really successful in their particular area. Whether they're a CEO, they are a celebrity that is like an actor or something like that. I don't listen to a lot of that, but I am an Armchair Experts fan and I will listen to pretty much anything they put out. Or it may be a scientist who is at the top of their field, or it might be an entrepreneur of some sort who has some sort of success or fame. So these are high achievers, these are people who are successful, who are very goal-oriented, and who have achieved what they set out to do. And I see a lot of similarities in commonalities in their stories and in the way that they live their lives. And so if you're someone who doesn't choose to do that with your day or doesn't have the time to do that, because I realize that a lot of people don't have time to listen to that, depending what your job is, depending if you have kids when you're in the car and things like that, and you can't take advantage of those opportunities, I wanted to bring you these lessons because I think they are some important life lessons. They are life lessons that I have taken with me and integrated into my life, and I have found positive change as a result of it for the most part. So today I have 8 important life lessons to live by in 2024, but whenever you're listening to this, it's the beginning of the year, so I thought this was a good time to bring this episode to you if you're looking for some motivation in how to go about this year, but whenever you're tuning in, doesn't hurt to start. And these are life lessons that I have learned from the experts. As a reminder, if you have yet to rate and or review this podcast, if I could ask you to take 2 seconds of your time right now, unless you are driving or unable to pull out your phone for some other reason, and go to the BusyBee Refinishing with MelDidItHerself page and leave up to 5 stars rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts and have a second to leave a review of why you love the podcast, what your favorite part is, why you show up, how it's been helpful to you, and something that you've learned or your favorite episode, that helps people to discover this podcast and when they come across it to know that it's something that's worth taking the time to listen to. So if you could do that for me in exchange for these life lessons that I'm about to bring you, I would so appreciate it, and thank you in advance. Life lesson number 1. All of these people have relentless perseverance with just a sprinkle of delulu, just a little sprinkle of delusion, and they have the resilience to continue to do so. So these are people that have attempted things that have not worked out in the past. For every CEO, billionaire, millionaire, successful person who has a business or something that they are talking about, they have like 25 other things that they've tried in the past that did not work out. And they don't always talk about it, but sometimes it comes up because I think people just don't think to mention it as much. I don't think they're trying to hide it, but these people did not just try one thing and then it took off and they became a billionaire. There was a lot of trial and error, and they had perseverance relentlessly through that. And then when that thing didn't work out, they weren't brokenhearted, they weren't discouraged. They said, okay, that didn't work. What can I learn from that? And what can I do next? Or how can I change it? So they have that resilience to continue to have that perseverance, even when things aren't working out. And the sprinkle of delusion, I kind of think you need it to do anything that's different, that somebody else hasn't done in the past, and to try and really try with all of your might to make that thing work. And an example of this that I look back on is when I first released my No BS guide to your first furniture makeover, which is an ebook or PDF that I have available for sale. And it basically goes over start to finish how to do your first furniture makeover. And that's something that I wanted to bring to you guys, to my community. And I knew from the beginning that it was something that I wanted to do, but I didn't really set out any parameters to make it happen. But even though I'm just, a girl sitting on her floor talking into a microphone with my dog waiting outside the door for me, I'm just a regular everyday person. I had just enough delusion sprinkled in there to think that this might be something that somebody out there might be able to benefit from. And so I had that sprinkle of Delulu to persevere to get the thing accomplished and completed. And to be honest, when I was finishing this thing up and I was preparing my plan for getting it out there, I created a TikTok video that I was like, this has a good premise to it. It announces the guide. It shows the benefit of it. I kind of thought that I would just put that one video out and this thing would just fly off the shelves, I get all these orders coming in, it's going to go viral, and everybody in the furniture flipping community who wants this is going to get it. And so then I got the video ready and I posted it, and it did all right. People saw it, people liked it, some comments, whatever. I don't think I got a sale right away. No, I know I didn't. I want to say it was maybe 4 days later is when the first one came in, and I didn't get thousands of orders that just flowed in like I anticipated they might, which is a very normal thing to happen for somebody who has the size of community that I do, right? There's not millions of people watching me. But I didn't let that discourage me too much. I was like, okay, good to know. That's how things work. Okay, a little bit of a reality check. But now, what can I do? What can I adapt or implement? Or how can I advertise this further? And I put together a more thorough strategy for marketing the thing, and it has had consistent sales anytime that I've implemented that plan and stuck to it. So you need that relentless perseverance with just a sprinkle of delusion, and mix with that the resilience to continue to do whatever it is you're trying to do and adapt, and don't let it stop you, because eventually something's going to stick. And that's kind of the life lesson that not enough people are having faith in, I think. I don't know why else you wouldn't keep going, as if you don't have faith that it's going to work out at some point in time. Life lesson number 2, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. This is a mentality and a mindset that I see so many, if not all of these people embodying. These people do everything very intentionally, and it gets to a point where it makes more sense to do so because they do have so much that they need to get done. So, they have less time in their day and they have more that they need to get done, and people's salaries that they're paying, there's a lot on the line. So they have to get strategic. This intentionality to life and all of the things that they do, the tasks that they complete, it really shines through, and you can see that in the way they present themselves, in the way they have their life set up, in the way they have their businesses set up, and the way they make decisions within the business. So this is definitely something that I have adopted and try to adopt day to day. It doesn't always happen, but having that attention to detail and really reminding myself to have that, because it's not really innately in my nature to do so. But the more that I remind myself of that, it just becomes a part of my life, and then inevitably that seeps into my work life. So I'm also having extreme attention to detail with doing my pieces, with planning out my custom work, with interacting with clients and staying organized in my communications, and all of these different areas. If I'm ever going to slack off and do something not to the best of my abilities, I'll be like, hey, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Like, figure it out, smarten up, let's go. And give myself a little like David Goggins pep talk. Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And don't you want to do everything to the best of your ability? So for me, that looks like being both productive, but also very intentional in my day-to-day. So when you get out of your bed in the morning, are you just going to throw the covers off and walk out of the room with the lights off and the blinds closed and clothes on the floor from when you went to bed last night and whatever else there may be? No, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you're getting out of the bed and no one else is in the bed, then make the bed, make it right, be intentional with it, open up the blinds, pick up the things on the ground, and then guess what? Your room is clean and tidy. You already accomplished something in the day before even going and having your morning pee. Like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So why wouldn't you have that start at the beginning of your day? And it doesn't take long. I think that is something we build up in our heads a lot of thinking, well, I would do that, but like I need to get in the shower and get to work. Oh, is taking 45 seconds to do those things really going to slow you down? Or did you push snooze 3 times on your alarm and you should have been up a half an hour ago when you would have had plenty of time to do this stuff and then some? Or fit in some relaxation time or some time to have a morning routine. No, don't fool yourself like that. We all do it. We all like to think that we're doing our best and trying our hardest. We're not. We're making up excuses. We are kidding ourselves and the people around us. You can do better. You can make your bed in the morning, honey. And if the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, for me, that means that my space also needs to be optimized so that I can focus on the things in front of me and know that my home and my space is taken care of. And for you, that may resonate in terms of your house being clean and tidy and organized, or it may make more sense for your space to be optimized for efficiency. Figure out which works better for you and brings you more peace and clarity, and then make sure you maintain that and do it intentionally and consistently. One example of this organized and put away versus efficient and optimized space would be in our master bath. I like to have like a clean, organized space where everything's put away. You know, we have the decor out, things are cleaned, and it just feels calming when you walk into a room. My husband, in theory, likes that as well, but more than anything, he wants his products to be out so that creates a mental trigger for him to wash your face or whatever, do whatever you do with your toiletries. And so this was always a thing where I would put them away and then he'd be like, I'm gonna forget, just keep it out. And I'd be like, but I want it to be looking good and tidy. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'll keep them out. And then I would just put them away when I was cleaning, like deep cleaning. And then I would put them back up. And then recently I went and I grabbed a couple little containers from the dollar store. And I put it on the counter because I said, you know what? Let's optimize things. Let's have things there and available. And at least we'll use them consistently because they'll be in our face because we're always going to be there brushing our teeth. And if you look down and these things are there, then you're just inevitably going to do it. So I bit my tongue and just tried this out and it has worked so much better. I gave myself a container too, so I put all my shit up there now too. It looks organized enough because it's in a little container, so it's not spread all over the counter, and now I'm so much more consistent with my skincare routine, with my tongue scraper after brushing my teeth, and all these things that I have tried and at certain points been successful at implementing consistently, but then they kind of fall off because they're out of sight and out of mind. So figure out which approach works best for your life and then look at these spaces in your home or these resolutions that you want to implement and these goals you want to achieve and figure out how you can do it. And remember that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. But I do want to build in the caveat here that if you adopt this mindset, this mentality, this mantra, whatever you want to call it, you do need to build in some grace for yourself, because there will inevitably be times when you make a mistake or certain circumstances don't allow you to be able to do something to the best of your ability, whether you have some sort of time restriction or a financial restriction or whatever it may be. So you need to build in some grace for yourself so you don't beat yourself up over it if you're not able to do that. Life happens, it is what it is, but have it be more often than not, you are ensuring that you're able to, live up to that standard for yourself, but don't shame yourself if you're not able to do it or you're not able to do it right away. Just do your best, forget the rest. Life lesson number 3, you have to take care of yourself. So that means your health, your body, your mind, your space, your spirit, to find success elsewhere. And again, is it the chicken or the egg? I don't know. These people may have had their lives be in shambles and be a total mess, and then or their business or whatever it is started to take off, and then after a certain amount of time they were able to invest money or time or energy into these other areas of their life to optimize them so that they're in great health, so that they can stay around and run this business for longer, or so that they look great so that they can continue to stay working and acting in movies, or that they are mentally stable so that they are able to continue to work hard to further these advancements in science. I don't know which came first, but I know that all of these people are addressing all of these things now, and it's making their lives so much easier. And if I am someone who is not yet at that level of success, but I intend to one day be there, then what is currently under my control and something that I can work towards is to take care of myself in that way. My health, my body, my mind, my space, and my spirit. Because if that's already optimized and that's kind of already where I want it to be, while I'm also working towards that other goal of success and goal attainment, then I'm already ahead of where they were at that point. That is so much better, no? So for me, that looks like taking care of my body by going to the gym more and having more of a focus on moving my body, taking the dog for a walk every day and being intentional with that. I have also implemented daily stretching, and that has looked a few different ways over time for me, but it is currently that I do a full body stretch before I even get out of bed in the morning, because then I know that I will get it done. So I get up, I sit up when my alarm goes off, because then I won't snooze it. I won't fall back asleep. I'm sitting up, I put my feet on the floor, and I start top to bottom stretching my body, cracking my neck out and my jaw, because I was clenching my jaw probably when I was sleeping, and then I work my way down and I stretch out my back and my shoulders and my chest, and then I stand up and I stretch out my legs and my wrists and my ankles and everything, get all my cracks out, stretch everything out. I feel good, I feel energized, and from doing all these things, one thing will just lead into the other, because I start going to the gym and I feel stronger, so I'm able to lift more things in the workshop. I start to feel better about myself, and that confidence will seep through when I'm interacting with the people around me, and then I'll inevitably end up eating better because I'm working on my body. So why wouldn't I eat a little bit better and avoid, the shitty things that are going to counteract all that effort I've put in? It's also time out of the house for me. So as someone who works from home, that is really energizing and something that I need to not get cabin fever and stir crazy. And it's better to go to the gym than for me to go to HomeSense and drop a couple bills there. So that's my little outing for the day that I like to work in. And it's also an opportunity for me to push my limits and find growth that's not linked to something monetary or something in the business that I have less control over, right? I can implement whatever plan I want, but things are going to happen how they happen, and I can do what I can to pivot and find success from different attempts. But one thing I definitely have control over is my body and my efforts to pursue goals in strength training and stuff like that. So my body, got it wrapped. Let's talk about our spaces. I talked about optimizing the space and cleaning and organizing it. Another thing that I've been doing consistently a couple times a year is a declutter. And at the beginning of the year is a great time to do that because you're probably inside more if you're in Canada at least and it's snowy and cold out and shorter days. And for me, working from home, my home is my workspace. So if I'm going to be able to focus at work and get things accomplished, I need to have the space around me not be chaotic or be pulling my attention because I'm like, oh, I just really need to like go clean the floors or I'm going to think about it. And another thing that I did was getting rid of inventory that I knew when I was honest with myself that I realistically would not finish. I had some pieces that were sitting and I'd already started them, but then hit some sort of hurdle. And when I looked at them, I'm like, am I going to invest the time, energy, or effort to get this thing accomplished? And if the answer was no, I got rid of it. And it hurt my heart, but now I have a much bigger, open, cleaner workshop to work in to bring in new projects and new opportunities, and it doesn't feel stuffy. So I decluttered, and another thing I did was redoing some pieces that had been sitting for sale for a really long time that weren't getting a lot of eyes on them or not a lot of interest. If it was something that I could redo pretty quickly for not a lot of money, I did that, and guess what? All those things have now since sold. So I have so much more space. It feels great, feels very renewing. So taking care of myself and my space ended up resulting in more success in the business. Who would have thunk? And I'm trying to take care of my health. So body and health linked, but for me, that has been intentional self-care practices. When I get up in the morning, I have a big bottle of water before I have my coffee to get rehydrated. I put a little bit of salt, a little bit of lime in there, helps to hydrate me even more. I also get my supplements and vitamins out of the way first thing in the morning and have been doing that and feeling the difference from that and being like, okay, I should have been doing this my whole life, I guess. But, better late than never. I have been more consistent with my skincare routine, like I mentioned, and more intentional and periodic with my healthcare appointments, massages, getting physicals, getting my eyes checked, all of these things that are so easy to put off. But I'm like, these are things that I can be doing now that I can make part of my everyday life. Why wouldn't I? I'm trying to optimize. I'm trying to live like people who are successful, and these people address things in their health before they become an issue, and they're proactive instead of reactive. And I also want to take care of my spirit. So that can look a few different ways depending what that means to you. But for me, it's booking things in that rejuvenate me and energize me and my spirit. So getting out in the world, seeing friends, having outings and activities planned because I work from home, that's something that feels really good for me. You may have a certain spiritual or religious practice that you need to prioritize a little bit more. For me, it's also looked like reading a lot more. Whatever it is that calms your mind and kind of grounds you, that could be another hobby or something artistic that you do. It could be doing puzzles. These are the things that are so easy to forget to do or to try and just fit into those times when you happen to get a few spare minutes in your day. And you're like, what can I do? Oh, yeah, that thing that I would always love to do but gets pushed. Don't let it get pushed. Book it in as time that needs to get done in your day because you need that rejuvenation. You can't pour from an empty cup. Book it in, and then don't let that be the thing that gets pushed if something else comes up. Certainly don't let it be the thing that gets pushed every single time because you need it, especially if you want to do this stuff long term. Life lesson number 4, a commonality that I see with all of these high achievers and these people who are successful is a focus on time management and systems. If you haven't already listened to the previous episode from last week, I talked about bringing CEO energy into 2024, and I talked about this a little bit. You can go back and listen if you have not yet heard it, but CEOs are looking to optimize. They're looking at ways that they can increase their revenue, decrease their expenses, make the people happier, just improve the business overall and make it flourish. And so that means that you're going to have to look at the way you're managing your time. You're going to have to look at your systems or lack thereof. And if you are someone who offers custom work in your furniture painting and refinishing business, one system that you may or may not have implemented is a custom intake form. For the longest time, this is not something that I had. I didn't even really think of the fact that there was the possibility of having this, because once I started offering custom work, it was kind of just as people asked for it. I didn't really advertise that it was something I did, but if someone would reach out and they would have a project that looked like something I'd be able to do, they had an idea of what they wanted, they were willing to pay what I said it would be worth for me to do it, I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And it just kind of morphed as it went and word spread. So I never really approached it as like, oh, I'm going to start adding this service to my business, and what are the things that would be good for that, and how should I set it up? That just wasn't part of my mentality at the time. But when things got really busy, working my 9 to 5 and working on my pieces in the workshop and working on customs and having a lot of custom inquiries, I was like, this is unsustainable. I need to look at ways to make this better. And one thing that made it so much better was creating this custom intake form. So basically, it's a link to one form that I can send to anybody who requests information about getting custom work done. It asks all of the questions that I would ever need to ask a client about the piece that they currently have and what they want done to it. So many things that you wouldn't even necessarily think about in the moment, but you will need, or it would be useful to have in order to provide an informed estimate to them and not have to change the amount that you charge them later, or like feel like you should have charged more, but like you feel bad about it now, but you didn't really think about the fact that you'd have to go and pick up the piece after and then like bring it back to your place and then drop it off to them later, and then they live like on the other side of town, and that takes up a lot of time and gas and energy and etc., etc. I know you've all been there because I was there too. I put together this guide to create a custom intake form that will work for you and your business and give you a little bit of time and mental clarity and energy back that you are currently using. And I say that pretty assuredly. I don't know if that's the right word, but like, I feel like I know that that's what's happening right now if you don't have one of these forms, because if you're getting those inquiries and you're trying to manage everything, I just don't know how you wouldn't benefit from this. So I have made this guide. It walks you through step by step. There are all of the questions that are in my intake form and the blurbs that I use about everything. I break it all down. I show you the tech side of it, of how to create it. If you're someone that's not very techy, I put truly everything that I think might be useful for you into this. It is free. I do not want to charge for it. I just want to make your life easier. So I will link it in the show notes of this episode, or you can go to my website. It's meldiditherself.ca/custom guide, and you can grab your copy and then just put some time in your calendar to sit down and create this form. I promise creating these systems and looking at your time management is something that's going to make such a big difference in your life. If you feel like you're a chicken running around with your head cut off, you need to create some systems. You just need to, and you need to figure out a way to manage your time better. I'm here because I'm going to give you the harsh but real truth. That's what I do. I do it for my friends too. I'm a no BS kind of person through and through. Life lesson number 5 is that you need to put on your blinders. All of these people, they put their blinders on and they looked down at what they were doing, focused on their business, and didn't look up until they got it where they wanted it to be. And this can look a few different ways. This can mean put on your blinders and don't listen to the negativity around you. Remember that you'll never be criticized by somebody doing more than you, because those people are focused on what they are doing, and any negativity that you're getting, whether it's from your family, friends, partner, people on social media, anyone that's saying something shitty is saying it out of a negative place in themselves, whether they are envious or jealous, or it incites something in them that they are putting onto you. It's not your thing, it's their thing. But you need to put on your blinders and not focus on that. People might want to break you down, or they might see that you're having some success and that might scare them because they think you're going to, no longer want to be with them or leave them in your dust, whatever that looks like. But just let it be water off a duck's back. If it's a negative comment on social media, whatever, delete it, ignore it, don't reply to it. It's very tempting, but just don't. Just put on your blinders, head down, and it will work out so much better. Put on your blinders when it comes to comparison. If you're looking at other people around you and comparing yourself to others, remember that comparison is the thief of joy. You don't know what's going on in someone else's business or in someone else's life. What they are sharing on social media may not even be true, or it definitely probably isn't the full story. So don't look at these people and compare yourselves to them and start feeling shitty about yourself and then have that ruin any sort of momentum that you've made, because it doesn't matter and it's a completely different situation. So you're doing nothing beneficial to yourself by looking at it or taking a second glance at it. When it comes to putting on your blinders, remember that if you're focusing on whatever the thing is, it might be your business, it might be something else that you just really want to accomplish, a goal you want to hit. Remember that there's going to be some sacrifice required. There just inevitably will. If you have your head down in your business and you're just trying to grow it, that might mean that you're going to have to pull time from some other buckets that you have, whether it's family time or friend time or some other hobby that you enjoy doing. You're going to have less time for Netflix or whatever it is. You only have so much time in a day. You only have so much energy. So if you're going to create a new bucket that you want to fill up, you're going to have to pull from another one. So be aware of that. I think it's much easier if you are intentional about that and you choose which bucket would have the least amount of impact. And if there's somebody that's going to be impacted by that, I would also recommend just have a conversation, have a discussion with them. If it's friends, say, I'm really trying to grow this business or I'm trying to start this business, and that means for the next 6 months, I'm really not going to be able to hang out like I used to be able to. I'm just going to focus for this amount of time just to see what I can do with it. And then after that, down to join back in the weekly hangouts or whatever it may be. But I think because inevitably there is sacrifice in one way or another, if you're intentional with that and you give people the upfront notice, then that can really help to avoid any sort of feelings of hurt or feeling neglected or offended. If people are like, she doesn't want to hang out for the last 5 weeks, like, is it something we did? Is she mad at us? Something like that. Just letting them know that this is what you're working on. It will avoid any sort of negativity, and then those people will help to support you and probably ask if there's anything you need, or they'll support your business more, or whatever it may be. But put on your blinders and say fuck it to the rest. Life lesson number 6. Try to remain objective about the business or whatever journey you are on. Again, I talked about this last week in the CEO episode, but it's so easy to be emotional about this work that we do and to be so subjective about it because it's your baby and you birthed it from nothing. And on the flip side, you're also your own worst critic. So you may think that something is horrible or you really need to improve something, but it may be something completely innovative that somebody has never done before and you don't even realize it. But from the outside perspective, people are looking at you as a leader in that thing. So try to remain objective about these things that you're looking at. One way to do that is to have markers that you can look at objectively, like data, tracking the progress, setting goals, and then checking in to make sure you're meeting them, or write down what inhibited you from being able to meet those goals. This is going to help you to track things that happen as they happen, and you might think that you haven't had a lot of growth in one area, but then when you look back at the numbers, that will tell you the story that you need to know, or the reality that you're not necessarily seeing. And it will also show patterns. So things may be going really great, but then there may be a point in time when they start to decline and you don't necessarily notice it. So you can look back and say, oh, well, what's happening here? And then look back at, oh, that's when this thing happened in my life, or, COVID stopped then, so that's maybe why there's less sales at that time because people aren't at home as much now and they're able to go back into the stores, or whatever it may be. It can help to give you that objective data to help to paint a story that you may not necessarily remember or have at top of mind. And it's going to help to keep you objective when you're making decisions about the business as a result. Life lesson number 7 is to take the path less traveled, because that's going to set you apart from the rest. All of these people did something different, or did something that people were doing a little differently, or they approached it differently, or they had different people involved. So even though that's a really scary thing to do, and it takes a lot of that courage, or like I said earlier, maybe just a sprinkle of delusion, whatever you want to call it, and it may not necessarily work right away and might require some fine tuning to get it right. But when you take the path less traveled, that's where you're really going to see things turn for you. And one example of that is this podcast. Number one, the reason that I started this podcast was because I looked around and I wanted a podcast that was all about furniture, painting, and refinishing and the business side of it, and it just didn't exist. And it was something that I wanted to listen to, but it wasn't there, so I was like, why don't I just talk about it? A little delusional, yes. Was it scary? Also, yes. Did I think that people would even want to listen? I didn't really. I didn't really know. I hoped so, but I didn't know. And if I had just followed the same path of other people, I would have just been posting nonstop on social media, which is great. And if you do that too, that's great. But that's what everybody does. And to set myself apart from the rest, I was like, nobody's doing a podcast. Let's see if people want to listen to a podcast. And it's been great so far. And like I always say, this is the best part of my week. I love showing up and I was going to say talking with you guys. It's kind of talking at you guys, but the feedback that I get when people say that something resonated with them or that they were laughing listening to an episode, like that fuels me in such a different way compared to getting a like on Instagram or something. Like I don't even look at that stuff. I go in to answer comments and stuff like that, but I'm not tracking that stuff anymore because really, if we really get honest with ourselves, that doesn't matter. Those numbers don't matter, guys. Stop thinking they matter. Don't let it impact your life. It doesn't matter. And even the number of people listening to this, it doesn't matter. I would love if it was millions and millions of people just to know that I'm helping that amount of people. But even if one person listens, as long as I'm helpful to that person or entertaining to that person or just someone that somebody can listen to and I can join them on their day, if they're in the workshop, if they're at the gym, if they're out walking the dog, like that's a win for me. So take the path less traveled. You never know what's going to happen. And truly, that's the thing that's going to set you apart from the rest. Because otherwise you're just part of the crowd. And life lesson number 8, always remember to continue to be kind and be humble. I can't say for sure because I do not know any of these people that I am referring to that I listen to on podcasts and audiobooks and all of these things, but either they hire people to say good things about them, or they have a really good PR firm that's spewing some bullshit about them, or they're just really great con artists, but these people seem to genuinely be kind and humble and just remember where they came from, I guess, is the way to put it. These people are giving back to others. They are taking the time to go on these podcasts. A lot of the times they have something that they're launching, but sometimes they don't, and they're just showing up and they're having these discussions. They're sharing about their journey and the things that made a difference to them and the things that set them apart, and that's what I'm able to then take and implement into my life, which I'm able to then take and put into things like podcast episodes that I can bring to you guys. Like, you just pay it forward and it goes so far versus just being like, oh, I figured it out. I'm just gonna keep this, or maybe tell my best friend so they can succeed, but I'll keep the rest to myself because I don't want to spread that message. No, these people are showing up and they're spreading their message and they're talking about the mistakes that they made that they wish they hadn't, or how they wish they had handled things. And that's such valuable information for me to be able to hear and consider and take into account as I move forward in life. So keep that in mind in all of the decisions that you make, all of the interactions that you have. I also always like to remind people to look at the people doing this work around them, whether it's on social media or in your own local community. Look at those people as your community and not as competition. If you want to hear more about this, you can go all the way back to episode 10. It's called Community Over Competition, and I bring in some local community that I have around me that also do furniture refinishing to talk about this and how I brought together a group of people to interact and talk about business and things like that. And since that episode, people have reached out and said that they've done that in their area and they now are meeting people, and it's awesome. Like we gotta just spread the love, And when we think about being kind and humble, that can also extend to the way that you run your business and the relationships that you create and the networking that you do. So when you're trying to think about your customers or other people that you interact with often in your day-to-day in the business, think about what would make your heart happy, what would bring some delight to you in your day in those relationships. And then do that. Implement those things. It's really straightforward. We teach it to our kids. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. So for me, that looks like giving thank you cards with every piece that I sell and just letting people know what it means to me that they supported me in my business. That looks like dropping off a little gift card to a local coffee shop, to my local stockist. Just say, hey, thanks for always being there and being available and having the products that I want to buy in stock and answering my questions when I have them. That looks like sending a little gift to somebody who sends a referral my way. If somebody requests custom work from me and we end up getting it set up and I ask how they heard about me and they said, oh, so-and-so has one of your pieces, or you worked with so-and-so on a custom in the past and they recommended you, then I'm going to reach out to so-and-so and be like, hey, thanks, and give them a little something as a thank you, or just say thank you. It doesn't necessarily have to have a monetary value on it, but that probably feels nice for that person to be like, oh, they noticed that I sent that client their way. And even if they're neutral about it, they're probably not going to be like, don't contact me again. They're probably going to be like, oh, thanks for saying that. You're welcome. I love the piece. Whatever. So remember to be kind and humble. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. And something you may not know about me is I love little motivational messages. You may have noticed that by the way that I integrated one into every single life lesson today. They get me so motivated, and I keep a running list of them in my notes app on my phone, and I end every podcast episode with one that I've noted down over the years in hopes that you leave our time here each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on whatever comes your way this week and in 2024 and beyond. So today's Mel's motivational message is, today is our only sure possession. And of course, we always hope that there is a tomorrow and a day after that and a day after that. But all we can be sure of is the fact that we have today. And what are you going to do with it? It's easy to think of, oh, I'm only 30, so in a perfect world, I have like 2/3 of my life remaining. So do I really need to start thinking about my health and making changes that positively impact my health, or create these habits for keeping my home tidy? Or do I need to start caring about my skin because I don't really have wrinkles yet? But all of these things are things that we can do today. Today is our only sure possession. If there's something that we want to try in life, but we're like, I'm kind of scared, maybe I'll just wait till next year because then things will be set up better and this thing will be done and I won't have to worry about this thing. But you don't know if you're going to make it to next year, so why not try that thing? Because God forbid, knock on wood, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, wouldn't it be a bit of a bummer to know that you never tried out that thing that you really wanted to try? I feel like it would. So treat today like it's the only day that you have. And if you do that for every day of your life, think about how fulfilled you'll feel, how enriched your life will be, how good you will treat everything, how great of a routine you'll have. All of these people that I glean these life lessons from, they are taking the bull by the horns and they're treating today like it's an important day and they're not just wasting their lives away. Again, they're having that relentless perseverance. They are treating everything with intentionality because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. They're taking care of themselves so that they can find success elsewhere. They're focusing on time management and systems so that they have time to work on all of those things. They're putting on their blinders and they're not worrying about what's happening around them or what people around them are doing or saying because it doesn't matter. They are remaining objective about the things around them so that they can approach them with intentionality, so that they can make smart decisions, and they aren't living in their feelings and letting that ruin their life. And they're taking the path less traveled and trying out new things and seeing what works or what fits or what they enjoy. And they're finding out through trying new things. And throughout all of that, they're remaining kind and humble, and they are doing their best to be the best human possible, which I kind of feel like we could all try and do a little bit more of. All right, that's it for today. I so appreciate your time. I hope you learned a thing or two or found these life lessons helpful, and I will catch you guys next week.